Good morning, and we are in uh, section 107. 107, yeah, sorry. Forgot myself for a second there. And we're on verse 20 right now. And uh, today you're going to see a lot of underlined green because this is just uh, instructions, basically, uh, on how to govern or run um, the church. And basically the general authorities, mostly. Um, we'll start with the Aaronic priesthood, though, and then we'll work to the uh, presidents of the church as well. The power and authority of the lesser or Aaronic priesthood is to hold the keys of the ministering of angels and to administer in outward ordinances the letter of the gospel. The baptism of repentance for the remission of sins, agreeable to the covenants and commandments. Of necessity, there are presidents or presiding officers growing out of, or appointed of, or from among those who are ordained to the several offices of these two priesthoods, meaning the Aaronic and the Melchizedek. Now we're going to get into specifics about something about the heads of the church. Of the Melchizedek priesthood, three presiding high priests, chosen by the body, appointed and ordained to that office, and upheld by the confidence, faith, and prayer of the church, form a quorum of the presidency of the church. Now, the word quorum isn't something we use every day. It can be used in different ways besides outside the church, but in my um, experience, it's very few times do I hear the word quorum outside of church offices, church quorums. And quorum just means the minimum number of uh, persons required in a group to make certain decisions or to make the meeting valid. So the quorum of the first presidency, or the quorum of the presidency of the church, as it says here, means that you need three to make that quorum. The 12 traveling counselors are called to be the 12 apostles, or special witnesses in the name of Christ in all the world, thus differing from other officers in the church in the duties of their callings. So the 12 apostles, or the 12 traveling counselors as they were known, are now also understood to be the 12 apostles. So we hardly ever use 12 traveling counselors as a title for them, but we may say the 12 apostles. Um, and they're called to be a special witness um, to the name of Christ, of the name of Christ. Notice it doesn't say special witnesses of Christ, it says of the name of Christ. Now, that doesn't mean they don't witness of Christ, but they witness of the name of Christ, of who he is. Um, and we could probably get into deeper about that, but I think I'll leave it there to let you ponder about what it means to be special witnesses of the name of Christ in all the world. And again, the word special is important too. And they form a quorum equal in authority and power to the three presidents previously mentioned. The 70 are called to preach the gospel and to be especial witnesses unto the Gentiles in all the world, thus differing from other officers in the church um, in the duties of their callings. Notice that's almost the same as what was said about the 12. But one says special and one says especial. Well, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it's the same. So um, it literally has the same um, wording of what special and especial mean. They're just kind of um, set apart for something. Um, if you go here and went to define, whoops, didn't like that for some reason. Define, we find that it says exceptional or distinctive, better or greater than usual, for belonging chiefly to one person or thing. So, and you'll find that special says the same thing, so I'm not going to go through it, but you see, it just means that they have this witness that they are to give, um, and differs them from other officers in the church in their duties, because it's to all the world. In both cases, it's to all the world. And they form a quorum equal in authority to that of the 12 special witnesses or apostles just named. And every decision made by either of these quorums must be by the unanimous voice of the same. That is, every member in each quorum must be agreed to its decision in order to make their decisions of the same power or validity one with the other. So if you've got a quorum of 70 and you've got a quorum of 12, each of those quorums would need to have a unanimous voice on whatever subject it is for those quorums to be of the same power or validity. A majority may form a quorum when circumstances render it impossible to be otherwise. And we see that shortly after Joseph Smith's um, martyrdom, where the 12 apostles weren't 12 apostles, they were less than 12 apostles due to a few circumstances in there. In fact, they were trying to make it 12 apostles, and as we learned was it yesterday, um, when we were learning uh, about, I'm just going to flip there really quick, um, to Lyman Sherman. Yeah, sorry, forgot Lyman for a second there. When he was called to be an apostle, but he wasn't ordained by the time Joseph Smith passed on. But so then the 12 still had to make those decisions as a quorum, even though they weren't a majority or all there in their decisions until then. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, unless this is the case, their decisions are not entitled to the same blessings which the decisions of a quorum of 3 presidents were anciently. who were ordained after the order of Melchizedek and were righteous and holy men. So, unless they are unanimous, and maybe if it's impossible otherwise, a majority, then their decisions are not entitled to the same blessings. They wouldn't have the same credibility or whatever you want to say as the three presidents are. And we find this not just on this level, but on the level of like a bishopric or a stake presidency or something. And I've seen how these bodies work and how we come to a unanimous decision. Sometimes, as members, we'll sit there and think, oh, well, they haven't done that. They haven't called so and so or something. It's easy. We've often put before, um, in my other callings, put a name forward to be, say, a teacher or something. Um, and it seems to take a long time to get back. And sometimes that is because as they're discussing it, some of it's like, oh yeah, that's a great person for that. But other times it's like, well, I do have this or this concern, and then they'll talk about the reasons for why they might have those concerns, or they might have a reason for thinking that um, another person should be in that place, maybe, or whatever, or that they have them for another calling. But then they'll have to discuss it and decide and pray and come to the point where they all feel unanimous, and that if they don't, then they may shelve it for a while. Um, if it's taking a while and they need to go away, pray about it, and come back until they feel all the same on that decision. And it's been a real blessing to see that. As it says here, it actually calls it same blessings. Um, so it is important that there is that unanimity in these decisions. The decisions of these quorums of or either of them are to be made in all righteousness, in holiness and lowliness of heart, meekness and long suffering, in faith and virtue, knowledge, temperance, patience, godliness, brotherly kindness, and charity. Have we heard that before? Well, yes, we have. I'm just going to flip here really quick, and then we see in Doctrine and Covenants 4 through 6, um, and faith, hope, and charity and love with an eye single to the glory of God. Qualify him for the work. Remember faith, virtue, knowledge, temperance, patience, brotherly kindness, godliness, charity, humility, and diligence. And then again in 121, no power or influence can or ought to be maintained by virtue of the priesthood, only by persuasion, long suffering, by gentleness, meekness, and by love unfeigned, by kindness and pure knowledge, which shall greatly enlarge the soul without hypocrisy and without guile. You can see that these keep being taught at different times, that this is important to have these virtues, these traits. And this scripture alone could be several talks or several times you can look at them because of everything that's in there. Because the promise is, if these things abound in them, they shall Um, they shall not be unfruitful in the knowledge of the Lord. So if you have those traits, you shall not be unfruitful, or you shall be fruitful in the knowledge of the Lord. Take out the double negative. In case that any decision of these quorums is made in unrighteousness, it may be brought before a general assembly of the several quorums, which constitute the spiritual authorities of the church. Otherwise, there can be no appeal from their decisions. Now that sounds pretty final. There can be no appeal. But it's saying there, if it's done in righteousness, and they've done all these things and had the knowledge, temperance, patience, godliness, brotherly kindness, and charity, and all of those in righteousness, then there's no appeal, no need to appeal from the decisions. The 12 are traveling presiding high council to officiate in the name of the Lord under the direction of the presidency of the church. Notice what it says, under the direction of, agreeable to the institution of heaven, to build up the church and regulate all the affairs of the same in all nations, first unto the Gentiles, and secondly unto the Jews. So, wait a minute, didn't they just say they were equal in authority? And now they're saying they're under the direction of. This is important. They do have that equal authority. However, when acting in their duties and doing those things, they come under the direction of the presidency of the church. And the 70 have the same obligation. The 70 are to act in the name of the Lord under the direction of the 12 or traveling high council, in building up the church and regulating in all and regulating all the affairs of the same in all nations, first unto the Gentiles and then to the Jews. So again, the 70, in performing their labors and doing everything, they act under the direction of the 12. I've never met a 70 that said, I'm acting under my authority or under the authority of the 70. He says, I have been called and asked to come here on behalf of the 12. Um, we found that uh, in the last few conferences that the Area 70, um, when they said a while ago, um, as part of the High Council, when they decided to make a new state president, all the High Councils and all the bishoprics are are interviewed. And as we did that, we went um, before the Area 70, um, and it was their responsibility, and they were able to set us apart. They had all the authority to not us, but the new state presidency. They had that authority to call and to set them apart as a new state presidency. And this was on authority or under the direction of the 12. So the 12 being sent out holding the keys to open the door by the proclamation of the gospel. So they're the ones that hold the keys. In other words, um, when things are done, it needs to be done um, through somebody that has those keys. It doesn't mean they're always the ones that have to do everything. They've got the 70 to help them do that. But they are the ones that are holding the keys to open the door by the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ, first unto the Gentiles, then unto the Jews. The standing high councils at the stakes of Zion form a quorum. So here we got the high councils in Zion. This is not the whole church, it's those in Zion now, or in the stake of Zion in this case, form a quorum equal in authority to the in the affairs of the church in all their decisions to the quorum of the presidency or the traveling high council. In the high council in Zion form a this is so we've got the stake of Zion and we have the high council in Zion. Form a quorum equal in authority in the affairs of the church in all their decisions to the councils of the 12 and at the stakes of the 12 at the stakes of Zion. So it's gets again. This is talking about the councils in the stake of Zion and Zion itself, or you might say they're talking on the stake level now, and putting it so that you know how these how the councils work in a stake as well as on in general. The duty of the traveling high council is to call upon the 70 when they need assistance to fill several calls for preaching and administering the gospel instead of any others. It is the duty of the 12 in all large branches of the church to ordain evangelical ministers as they shall be designated unto them by revelation. Now, we don't hear the word evangelical ministers um, in our everyday or day to day discussions or anything. And that might be because the evangelical that we look at are really considered patriarchs. And here we have Hiram to be called a patriarch, and that from henceforth he shall hold the keys of the patriarchal blessings upon the heads of all my people. And so there, the 12 um, are there to ordain patriarchs, basically. We'll read a little more about patriarchs tomorrow from here on. But today, I just hope you got a little bit more of how the structure of the church works and how amazing how this really does become a strong base for the church for the future. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.